was a union representative, so for workers, I don't know what the word is in Czech. Yeah. So my dad was what we call a shop steward, which is the guy on the floor who organises the workers, you know. So from a very early age, I used to get the newspapers through the door. So I would read the newspapers. I was self-taught to read at like 4 years old or something like that. So I was checking. They were talking about South Africa, apartheid, you know, different things, you know, all through the world. And so I began to formulate my own opinions, you know, based upon the newspapers, is where it started. And that gave me the realisation, you know. So I kind of grew up very much in the left, you know, on the left wing. My family, my brothers actually were also union shop stewards and activists. So it's in my family. But even if it wasn't, I think I would still formulate the same opinions. You know.
When you started to be interested in music, like tape trading, collecting records, how important already at that point were the lyrics for you? Was it just something which is inevitable part of the music, or you just follow the music?
I mean, I'm sure that it's the same as for everybody else here. You know, I mean, your natural human instinct is to gravitate towards sound first, because you don't actually have to necessarily directly interact with sound. It's there, you know, it's straight into your mind. And later on, I started to get an interest in the lyrics. I mean, the early stuff I was exposed to through my dad, which is like Deep Purple, Jimi Hendrix. Obviously, the lyrics in those, arguably, there wasn't that much content, you know, as regards to what we're talking about. But I think later on, probably, I mean, I already had this sort of knowledge of what was going on in the world, so through music, I guess it was like, probably bands like Conflict, like in the early 80s, Conflict, the London UK punk band, who were talking about freedom and, you know, the fact that actually politics is really just something to keep people divided and fighting against each other, and actually, like, true freedom is just humanity, human beings, that's what it is. You don't have to necessarily put a left or a right tag on it, it's just human beings, that's what really matters, you know. So that kind of, in a sense, that kind of contradicted my, so I was like, yeah, well, I'm political, so I'm automatically always 100% like left wing. But then you come to realise at some point that politics is just a way of putting something on top of human beings that's not always actually necessary. You know, the most important thing, you know, things that have been done on the name of the left, I also actually don't agree with. You know, if people are kept down like that, it doesn't matter what the political system is. It's not something that I would endorse. You know. So.
How difficult it was for you when you started writing your own lyrics? Because it's difficult to read something and to read lyrics of other bands. And how difficult it was found to the right way to express yourself in these lyrics?
Well, so the thing is that I, as I mentioned earlier, I was reading newspapers from a very, very early age. Very actually complex ideas, you know, from very early. So I got a real enthusiasm for language. Obviously the English language, you know, first of all, but the creative writing and stuff. So actually it wasn't that difficult for me. My thing was always, and still is to this day, you know, and I know this is going to sound really critical, and I don't necessarily mean that way, but you read a lot of lyrics, you take a cross-section of bands, and sometimes it's hard to find. You can find original music, but the actual way the lyrics are written can be very samey. You know, it's hard to find. And when I say that, I'm talking not necessarily the subject matter, but the technique of writing. You know, so if you look at a Napalm lyric sheet, you'll notice that some of it is parody. There's a little bit of comedy in there sometimes, and pathos, and all these different writing styles. Because at least I try to write creatively. Of course, you've got to balance it between getting the idea across and not getting too complex that people are like, what the fuck is he talking about? You know? So yeah, it's very much a balance.
Yes, super.
How do you pick up the topics to write lyrics about? Because I first noticed when Fiorentina's Despair was released, there was, I think, the song's name, Reggae Neighbors, which was about the disconnecting of phone lines.
Yeah, that was one of Mitch's. Mitch always had this crazy like UFO perspective on things, you know, which is different, but it was also actually in the same field as what I was trying to write. It was just a slightly different perceptive way of approaching it, you know, which is still valid, you know. So.
But in general, how do you pick up the general topics you want to write about?
It's not difficult for me, man.
too many.
Here's the thing, obviously this applies to, I'm a human being.
Yeah.
Everybody's got observations of things around them. So when you have that, the world, it's like a paint palette with 1,000 colours on it. You can do anything with it, you know.
Let's talk about the driving force behind it, because I read a recent interview with you when you explained that probably the best motivation to write lyrics is empathy, like to get involved in a human life is empathy.
Yeah.
Well, has it ever been so? Like when I read the older lyrics from the older recordings, it's like, to me, it sounds rather like young, angry man than somebody in that. Did it change or?
No, I mean, you know, it's as human beings, you know, we change in our intensity down the years. You know, there are some years where maybe we were a little more intense about things, but I'm still angry, you know, but I think anger isn't just about like jumping up and down and shouting, you know, there is other ways to express it, because I always think of it like this: there's no point in being angry if there's not a solution on the other side. You know, it's like being critical of things. Yeah, sure, you should always be critical, but you should also maybe think about what is the solution, you know, because I think the idea of living in the world is not to just be in opposition. It's to also offer a way forward, because there has to be an alternative. That's the whole point, to make an alternative, you know, which is not always easy, you know, and not always achievable, but you at least need to have the ideas there, you know, for maybe even, I know this sounds really romantic, one day when the system does collapse and like a new system based on human beings, you know, comes out the other end, you know, so.
What came across my mind when you mentioned conflict in the beginning, what I noticed that is happening in the different hardcore communities around the world, that it's been statements that punks and hardcore guys usually denied to take part in elections. And suddenly the whole attitude is going to change, like the guys from hardcore bands that have been advising never go to elections now advising to go to elections. So is it important to take part in public politics?
Well, I mean, that's actually, I would give a neutral answer to that, because again, obviously decades of different civilizations have kind of forced the political system on us in a way. So, you know, I have two viewpoints about politics, you know. Sometimes I'm involved in it, but other times I fucking hate it, to be honest, you know. Because it, like I say, it kind of pushes human beings out of the way sometimes, you know, in order to achieve a political aim, you know. So, you completely have the right to not engage in elections, because of course if you believe that actually human beings should have more openly free and democratic institutions like citizens' councils rather than political parties, you know, if you believe that, then of course why should you vote in an election? Why? What's the point? Because then you're just enforcing the very thing that you're hypercritical on, you know. But I also respect people's choice to vote in political elections as well, you know, because nobody's good or bad, you know, if they believe in something. It's just where how deeply you look into things and how deeply you wish to kind of undermine what's there now. My personal opinion, I think that it's, the funny thing is that across the world, people kind of divide different countries into, well, yeah, this is that political system, this is ultra conservative, this is ultra liberal, this is left wing, this is that, and really hanging over the top of that, there's one system, you know, one political thing, and just different kind of shades of it, you know. So then there's an argument for everything collapsing and starting again, you know, citizens' councils, the understanding that nobody should be left behind. There should, you know, in this day and age, in Europe, on the European continent especially, there should be nobody living on the fucking streets, you know, unless they choose to. There should be nobody wondering where the next meal's coming from. There's enough fucking food on the European continent alone in stockpile to feed everybody, you know. So in that situation, politics becomes fucking useless if you can't solve those situations.
Have you ever considered to use the authority you already have, because you are authority and voice, let's say, at least for the metal community, to take part in politics?
Well, here's the thing, I've been asked a few times, but you know, there's one thing about it that bothers me, is that not every politician, because there are some very well-meaning and actually very effective politicians, let's just say that, even though we completely criticise politics, you know. But very often it becomes about ego. So even if the politician in question hasn't driven it in that direction, it can become about a person rather than the actions or what needs to be achieved, you know. So for that reason, I was always like, no, I don't want it to become about me and, you know, what my background and what I've done. I wouldn't want any of that, you know. I mean, I'd just get really pissed off at it, and I'd just say, no, I don't want to do this, you know. And actually, it's the same with Napalm. I mean, obviously, being in music, there's always focus on bands and individuals in bands, you know. And I mean, I'm always, like we are today, I'm always willing to talk, like, to people, you know, about stuff. But it's not actually, when you strip it, it's not about me, you know. It's about the ideas and the music, you know, the two things go together. And it's, if anything, it's about Napalm Death. It's not about me. It never was about me, and I never wanted it to be that about me either, you know. So, yeah, sure, I'll always discuss ideas, and like people identify with me, then come on, we can talk about stuff. I mean, Chirpy knows this, you know. We've known each other for fucking years and years and years. But it's about Napalm Death, you know. It's not about one individual, and that goes for any band.
Do you agree with each other in a band? You know,
not always. Not always. No, he knows that as well. But we make it work, you know, because listening is an important part of things, you know. And I know that sounds like a fucking cliche, and politicians always say that, you know, but it's true, you know. You have to listen to your other band members, you know. Bands where like one band member is always like, yeah, this, and this has to be this, and that. It never works, man. People just get pissed off, and in the end, there's only so much you can take, and you just like, no, I don't need this one, you know.
So when you agree to play concert, you say we play that because of lyrics, or the music is more important?
Well, let's put it like this: there are some things that we would not play, you know.
Okay. So
we would not play festivals where there are openly like neo-fascist or old fascist bands. We won't do it, you know what I mean? It's a policy of our band. And,
yes, but when you put a set list together,
yeah.
You say, because of lyrics, I want to play that, I want to play that. No, music is more important.
Sorry, I misunderstood. So you mean the set list itself?
Set list, because I won't play that, this is very important lyrics, Barney won't play that.
Actually, no, we don't do it that way. No, we don't, that never comes up. We do basically, when we make a set list together, we make it more from a creative perspective. And what I mean by that
musically.
What I mean by that is Napalm tours all the fucking time, you know. I mean, you see we're always like here, there, and everywhere. So I think it's important, and this is not on the lyrical side. This is purely on the creative side to change the set list, because I see some bands. I might see them 1 year, I might see them 12 months later. It's the same fucking set list. I remember.
You wanna talk? You wanna talk about it?
Yeah, well,
Harmonic Corruption, only one song.
Yeah, sure.
Huh?
Well, no, actually, we've done 2 or 3 songs.
Okay, but Suffer the Children always.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah, but some songs people want to hear, you know what I mean?
I know, this is another story.
Children, Scum, people want to hear.
Ever, come on.
Yeah.
So this is musically more than lyrically.
Sure. But,
Thank you.
But around that, we changed the song. We rotate different set lists. You know, on this tour, this is a run of 10 dates. We're doing 2 set lists. So it's 2 different ones, you know. So.
Suffer the Children.
Yeah, sure. But we do other songs from Harmony Corruption as well. Just try and, but see, when you've got 15 albums, it's like everybody likes something from a different, if they're interested in Napalm Death, you know. So everybody likes, so we try and always fit something in from every like era, you know, or time windows, which is it's difficult. I mean, you do argue about that stuff. I want to play this fucking song. Yeah, but what about this fucking thing that we haven't done for 6 years, you know? So, yeah.
If you come back to human rights, you have expressed your voice a couple of times to different topics, like gay marriage. You have been involved in helping those English Jews that have been jailed in Indonesia.
Yeah, unsuccessfully, but
yeah. What's actually like what makes you to decide to get involved in one particular case or to express yourself about a particular topic like was the gay marriage?
Well,
did they ask you to do, or are you just
no? Well, in terms of gay marriage, here's the thing: this shouldn't even be a fucking conversation. You know, this is a human rights issue. If 2 human beings want to do something that's a very natural process, whose business is it to try and stop them from doing it? Fuck you, you know what I mean? Go away, you know. It's just like, I never understood, you know, why this is a national issue. It's not even an issue. It's 2 human beings, you know, who want to express their love for each other, and they want something which is entirely their right to do so. So I wasn't asked to give my opinion on that. Or maybe I was in interviews and stuff, but generally, sure, that's my opinion. But it's an opinion like anything else's, you know, so it's just one of those things. But yeah, more specifically, the other thing you mentioned, which is the Indonesian guys that were in jail.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, universally, I'm against capital punishment. I don't think it is, it's a revenge tool. That's what it is. It's not a justice tool, it's a revenge tool. It's to say, we've got power over you, so you did this, so we're going to kill you for it. You know, and my thing has always been, well, hang on a minute, state-sponsored murder kills like fucking hundreds of people, thousands of people every year. So what do you do when the state murders people? Do you put the politicians on trial and send them to the death chamber? No, you don't. You know, so why is it that equally individual citizens, human beings can be sentenced to death for carrying drugs through a border? It's fucking absurd, you know what I mean? So I'm against the death penalty. I don't think anybody has the authority over somebody else to say you must die, you know. That's it. People can agree or disagree with that, but as a human issue, if you're going to talk about quality, that is, I think, it's a very important thing.
How much time you spend on keeping yourself up to date? Was that to make it work? I mean, different.
You can't fail. Well, you don't need to keep up to date. It's there, like in your ears and in your eyes and everything. You know? So yeah. But it's worth saying that, you know, every sort of 3 or 4 year cycle, people will come up to you generally and go, "Isn't the world such a fucking fucked up place at the moment?" It's like, well, hang on a minute, like 5 years ago it was really no different, except it was just different things that were fucking hell. So I don't see it as, people say, yeah, we're at crisis point. Yeah, but it's been that way ever since I've been alive, you know. I mean, go back to 1914, you know, the fucking First World War, which is a terrible human atrocity, you know, and so everything is you know, on different levels. You know, there's always a fucking mess. You know.
Are you still reading a lot?
Yeah. Yeah.
Books or
Anything that comes along. You know.
What's your favorite recent book?
There's actually in recent times, I would say, I forget the exact title of it. I think it was called Days of Love, Nights of War, or something like that. It's actually like a free thinker's guide to life, which sounds like a contradiction in itself, you know. But it's it's basically, it takes all the institutions that we've become sort of indoctrinated to think, yeah, this is society, you know, this is what you need to do to live in society, and it just blows it apart, you know, and it just says, you know, if I can't remember, it actually talks about one of the things is animal ownership, you know, and it argues that you should, I don't know, even some animal rights, like people who consider that disagree on this, but I say that you should never keep animals. Pets should not be domesticated. You know, they should just be free to roam wherever they need to roam. So that's a particular thing, but that's just one example. So it takes every facet of life and just blows it apart. But it's got comedy in it as well, you know. So it's actually quite a fun read.
Yeah, so it's kind of paraphrase.
Yeah, and apart from that, what else? Books. Recently. I've actually got, it's going to sound really boring actually, I've got Khrushchev's biography, which is this fucking thick, that I'm just about to read, so that's going to be quite interesting. Because one thing that's just as a personal thing, you know, I'm kind of an amateur Soviet historian, again, like Cherby knows, I collect anything aesthetically connected to Soviet influenced countries, you know, so whether it's even knives, forks, plates, from the time, films from in Czech, you know, Schwank, what's his name? Yeah, I collect all these films, all different cultural, you know, things, you know, so I'm very much into all that stuff.
We have just finished the 20 minutes, so now it's
we can.
Anybody who can ask. No, I mean let's people give them a ball.
Sure.
Guys.
Would you talk about your interaction with trade unions? I read that you helped trade union.
Yeah, myself, I was also a union representative.
I know. Can you tell about it?
Yeah. Oh, actually for musicians,
yes,
you know, the Musicians Union, which is, well, as it says really, it's a union for whatever you do in music, you know, whatever style, orchestras, rock music, you know, extreme music, whatever, you know.
And I've read that you interacted with workers' unions also.
Yeah. Because actually in the UK certainly, most unions are connected through the TUC, which is Trade Union Council.
Yeah, I understand.
So to make them with a stronger influence, they're very connected, you know. So.
Okay, I would like to ask you, what's your personal opinion about Brexit and why?
Good question.
Finally.
Yeah, good question. You know what? Here's the thing, man. There's different ways to answer this. First of all, I think the very idea, this is on an emotional level, we have a certain opinion within the UK, and this goes for any country, that believes that the British, an idea of another British Empire, like Britain being independent, is somehow a good thing. And when you look at the past and the things that brought, I would say, I know this sounds really rude, I would say, don't be fucking stupid, you know what I mean? You know, this whole thing of being, yeah, we're an island, a proud island, so let's disconnect ourselves from like 25 miles across the sea. Be fucking serious, you know what I mean? I mean, me personally, I don't care about identity. I don't need to be, yeah, I'm British, I don't give a fuck. I'm not patriotic, not 1%. peace. You know, human beings are more important than any flag, any country for me, you know, so that's the first thing to say. So I think this whole idea of becoming un-European or separating out is fucking stupid, you know what I mean? That's the first thing to say. The second thing to say, I have not always been the biggest fan of the European Union, in the sense that on the financial side of things, the austerity, the kind of poverty measures against Portugal, Greece, Spain, other countries, I thought was fucking inhumane, you know what I mean? There were people in a European Union country that's supposed to be part of a union. When you're part of a union, you should be looked after by the union, you know. People were fucking starving on the streets, you know, and begging, you know, tons of people. I mean, that's not right, man, you know what I mean? So, I'm critical of it in that sense. In another sense, what I would like to see is a socialised European Union, where peace is preserved on the European continent, where, again, going back to what we were just talking about, if a country has economic problems and the people are really going through hardships, the other countries should support that country, you know.
Military.
100%, you know, should support that country. That's the European Union that I want. And so I want to, if it could be done, I want to remain part of it, but I want to see it reformed, where it's a socialised European Union, not an economic and monetary European Union. That's what I want to see, you know. But I think the idea of the UK coming out of it and being somehow vastly improved, I think it's fucking nonsense. You know?
For the people.
For the people, yeah, for the people. I think certainly in the UK, how it will affect the remaining European Union right now, it's hard to say, you know. But I think in the UK it's going to be pretty weird, you know, for quite some time.
Yes, Barney, thank you so much for being today here. I wonder, how do you see the future of this world? Are you mostly positive or negative about what's happening? And what is the role of the bands shaping this future?
You have to be positive, man. You have to, even though you know, you're dealing with a lot of negatives, this was what I was talking about, you have to consider an alternative. You have to consider what comes next. So you always have an element of positivity, because you want to see things get to like a better place, you know what I mean? You want things to go there, so you have to be positive. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of negatives right now, you know. Coming back to Europe, you know, one thing that really troubles me is we had a world war fucking 60 years ago, which again, much like the First World War, was fucking atrocious, you know what I mean? The Czech was particularly badly affected, you know, Czech and Poland, you know. I don't want to go there again, you know, and the problem is, there are signs in some of Southern Europe and some of Eastern Europe actually, there are very, very hard right fascist movements, you know, operating sometimes on the streets with local government legitimacy. Or they almost look like brown shirts, you know, they wear very, very like neo-fascist kind of uniforms, and they enforce moral, like sort of moral living, you know, on the population. So I know people that work in like human rights, they tell me like gypsies, anybody that looks homosexual, you know, anybody with dark skin being fucking harassed on the streets, you know, in some countries in fucking Europe, you know, in 2019. And what worries me is that with this populist rise in certain parts of Europe, I'm really concerned that they're going to push people over the edge. You know, this whole thing against migrants and immigration and stuff, which is blown completely fucking out of proportion, you know. It really bothers me that that's going to cause a flashpoint. It's going to split people down the middle, and it's going to cause conflict, like literally war, you know. And I had relatives of, not direct relatives, but friends who went to fight against Franco in Spain, you know, during the 1930s, because the rise of fascism in Europe. And they didn't need to do you think they wanted to do that? They didn't want to fucking do that, you know, but they saw like humanity collapsing on itself, and they wanted to go do something. I don't want to have to make that choice. You know, I consider myself to be a pacifist, and I want to be a pacifist. I want the conditions to keep me in pacifism, you know. But maybe there comes a point where you go, you know what? If I don't do something, if we don't do something, the world that we live in is going to be taken over by people who want to sort of separate people out under certain conditions. That, like, it's not a good situation.
But for you, pacifism is, for example, it's to oppose the aggressor, like Russia attacks Ukraine and Turkey.
Sure.
Turkey attacks Rojava, for
Sure.
or like both sides are guilty.
Sure.
Because
Well, I think in any situation, you know, I mean, this is the problem, you know. I mean, it's something you reconsider all the time, you know. I would use violence, you know, quite readily back in the day. In some of the early tours of America, it was actually trendy to be a Nazi, you know. So the first two American Napalm Death tours were fucking miserable. Every night or every other night, we'd get people coming up going like that in the gigs, and not just one or two people, like fucking 50 people, you know,
Wow.
who potentially have the power to really affect gigs, you know, completely. And we would find ourselves like fighting, like, I didn't want to fight people, man. I didn't, there was no match up, oh yeah, let's beat some Nazis. It was nothing like that, you know. It was to stop, these people are fucking bullies. That's what they are, they're bullies, man. They're glorified bullies with a particular position, you know.
But you fight by
We
playing
did
Nazi
fight.
punks, fuck off.
Yeah, we
you
did
fight.
We
You fight.
did fight. And you know, I'm not going to say I'm not happy about that. It fucking makes me really depressed, actually. But in order to stop these people from bullying other people and trying to bully us at the same time, we just felt it was necessary, you know, at points. It was fucking dangerous, you know, and I didn't want to do it. The other guys didn't want to do it. Our friends didn't want to do it who were with us, but unfortunately it came down to that, you know. So, but I haven't had to do that for many years. Nowadays, if you see them, usually you blow kisses at them and they get so pissed off and I'll just leave, you know. Yeah, I want to be a pacifist, but then when things come up in the world where you see, like you were saying, Turkey attacks Rojava,
Yeah.
or aggression in other parts of Europe or wherever, you know, America right now interfering in South America, you know, there's all different things going on, you know. You think to yourself, am I going to have to make a choice at some point? You know, I would rather ideologically stand back and go, no, I'm not gonna kill somebody, you know, or even like really hurt somebody. I'm a human being, I believe in humanity, no fucking way am I going to do that, you know. Because in one sense, you're if you do like respond and like or shoot somebody or something, you're doing exactly what authority wants you to do. They want you to fight against each other like all the time. You know?
Okay, any more questions, anybody?
Maybe I would have one more question if I can. You proclaim that you are very much pacifist and pro-humanity, not for or against the death penalty and corporal punishment. What's in case of, for instance, mass murderers? If there are people who kill
Sure.
several. Okay.
But here's the thing. Why, rather than killing them, why don't you try and understand the actual mental processes of why? We still don't know that. You know, there are, in the judicial systems in the world, it's about revenge. Oh, that person's got to die. What's the first thing Trump said after these two mass killings in the US, which I'm sure you've probably heard about it? The first thing he said when he made a press conference, I want instant capital punishment for this person, kill him. So what are you achieving? You're not understanding why the next person might do it. So why don't you try and understand what motivates people to do that? You know, if it's revenge is not justice. It's not. It's two entirely different concepts. You know, that's not justice to go and kill somebody. You know, of course it's completely heinous for somebody to do that. You know, but you don't know what's going on inside there. I'll give you a classic example how circumstances can lead to things. In Birmingham, back in the 80s, Birmingham was very fucking poor, you know, where I'm from in the 80s. And then we had the Thatcher government. Margaret Thatcher, I don't know if everybody's aware of it, but she took all the public services, like closed them down. So in a place called Handsworth, which is near to where I lived, there was like a halfway house for people who were like quite severe schizophrenic, you know, who couldn't function really outside, you know, in a standard social situation, you know. But these places were great. So basically they weren't locked up in some fucking horrible asylum kind of thing. They were in a functioning community. You know, they went out with the people that were working at the thing, and they experienced life, you know, and everything. So the local Conservative government cuts closed that institution. They literally put the people out on the street, okay? So this one guy who was really freaked out, like extreme, like schizophrenic guy, they let him out on the street. They just said, there you go, on the street. So this guy walked into the town centre, like obviously completely freaking out. He like got a pair of scissors from somewhere. He went into a department store and like randomly saw some lady, and obviously you're in a store, there's all sorts going on. He just stabbed this lady like 2 or 3 times. Didn't kill her, thankfully. She was like badly hurt, you know, but he didn't kill her. So read the newspapers the next day. Oh, murderer, you know, hang him, bring back corporal punishment. Well, hang on a minute, look at the circumstances. Government fucking cuts put this guy out on the streets, you know, and through no fault of his own, his mental condition led him to do that. So you tell me, whose fault is that?
Yeah, you.
So therefore, when people have these, whatever's going on in people's heads, you need to understand that. And then hopefully, in the long run, when you have a true understanding of these things, you can stop these like mass shootings from that. You know, understand the mindset, you know. And sorry man, and I know there's some ones that are politically driven, you know, so then you kind of need to listen to those people, you know. In as much as we've been talking about, you know, all this stuff, people that do voice that opinion, I'm not going to like attack somebody for doing that. They've got the right to express that, you know, but at least understand what then takes them to the next level, so you can deal with it and stop people from going down and killing people. Hopefully, nothing's perfect, you know what I mean, but it is something to understand.
Thank you very much.
I think we are finished with the time.
No, that's it, it's gone.
Thanks.
Yeah, sorry,
I
yeah.
just came in. So you said it's like not a question of fault, but I would. My position would be it's a question of investment. I know that a guy has a life against in front of him.
Yeah.
And if I can do something,
Sure.
As you mentioned, to understand him,
Sure.
to do something, and then comes back. So you do something right, you help,
Sure.
you invest,
Sure.
you get something in return.
Sure.
So like in a big picture, this was investment, like children.
Sure.
You grow them up.
Sure.
They don't know nothing.
Sure.
They can be really mischievous or whatever.
Sure.
You teach them,
Sure.
but they bring back.
Sure.
But you can't do it with everyone.
Sure.
So I mean, you have to try.
Sure.
But that's
But
like one
But
point.
I still don't believe that the capital punishment method is the right thing, because there's no equality.
It's not.
Yeah, there's no equality.
True
It's
that,
not.
yeah.
There's no equality, because it goes back to what I was saying.
It's
Sure.
like you can't really know for sure, and
Sure.
it's like too much risk, and I'm not gonna go there because.
But
it's
it
like,
goes
I
back.
don't know.
It goes back to what I was saying.
Hmm?
Why is it that the state? What makes the state? Which is I'm talking about the state, countries.
People
So
make the
what
state.
makes that? Which is
People make
yeah.
the
What
state.
I'm saying is, the state is a collection of individuals. So then, when the
Exactly.
state goes and kills people, whether it's in its own country or in another country, if they're interfering in other countries, why shouldn't they go on trial? If you're going to do it with individual citizens who have no power compared to those that pull the strings, why should they get away with it when other people have to die for mistakes that they make? You know what I mean? If you know, you have to have equality of system. You know, otherwise, this is why a lot of people want to fucking. There's more people than you can imagine that want to break the system down that admit that. You know what I mean? Because they can see. You know, that
Yeah,
there's
but do they have
equality.
like a better option?
well, this is what we're trying to work towards.
The point is, I mean, it's like the evolution. It's like nothing's perfect. It's
Sure.
self-help.
Yeah, yeah.
And you just get better only a little bit at a time.
Well, sometimes you can make big steps.
So just dumping the whole system and going like this is all fucked up. It's like not being too able to understand what's going on.
But there's an argument to say that if it doesn't fall down wholesale, like the Roman Empire is actually a good example. The Roman Empire collapsed pretty quickly, and everybody thought that's the end of civilization, that's the end of the world. The Roman
But that
Empire
happened so many times
But-
before
but-
and after that.
but the world rebuilt
Same
itself.
happened with Germans.
successfully.
Same thing happened
Yeah.
with Germans.
Yeah, yeah,
They were the last to try that.
sure.
And all the nations went like, not cool, man.
Sure.
We're not doing this anymore.
Sure. Well, there's various examples.
Okay.
So there's somebody back there. Can I see
You
that?
mentioned that we are witnessing fascism on all levels. What about penetration of fascism in our underground scene? I mean, I believe that you could witness that. You can
Yeah,
have an example.
that's a good point. Yeah, elitism, not fascism necessarily, but elitism. So people saying I'm more legitimate than this band or that band. Yeah, I know.
Like they dump, and I
Yeah.
know better, and I know better.
Yeah, yeah, sure.
It's in our country. I come from Slovakia.
Okay.
And what I think we're encountering is like the opposition is there's a variety. You can choose from liberals to
Sure.
like right-wing liberals
Sure,
and
sure.
even left-wing liberals.
Sure.
But they're not cooperating, and then somebody comes and they just exploit everybody's trust.
Sure.
Like they know it will work.
Sure.
They have their 20%.
Sure.
They build the government and
Sure.
it's like and they go stealing.
Sure.
Even they.
Yeah, that's a problem with political system, you know, because it's that sometimes it's about self-promotion rather than what's good for it. This is
Well, it
this is
always
why
is,
this is why when somebody asks
You're
me, to get-
self-promoting, I mean, right?
yeah, well, of course, but I'm trying to do something a little bit more.
Yeah, of course.
I hope, yeah, but you're right, but you're correct. Sometimes it's unavoidable.
Yes,
once you
yes.
try not to self-promote, it kind of is in another way. So yeah.
They're human
you have
beings.
You
Yeah,
have
sure.
to be aware of that.
Yeah, sure, of
That's
course.
the only thing.
Sorry, man. Can I?
Yeah,
Do you want to
What
finish
is
your
your-
point?
What is your observation on that? Like, do you feel like there is a penetration of fascism on the scene?
I wouldn't say it's when you say fascism, you talk about like literally
not extreme,
right.
but
Yeah.
it's more like a hidden form, but you can see some signs of fascism.
As in political fascism or
Yeah,
okay.
like,
Yeah.
like the same green.
Yeah, sure. I mean, of course, napalm is.
No,
We're
napalm.
not. We have no
No napalm, but there are
solidarity.
people like that were completely on different spectrum.
Sure. It's a difficult one because I can't stop them from having their opinions. I don't want to stop them from having their opinions.
Yeah.
Or see, I just want to make one point. There was a particular thing last year that concerned Napalm Death. There was a festival in Norway where there was like very openly fascist band playing, and Napalm said to the promoter, "Look, we're not going to do it if this band's doing it." And he said, "Okay, then that's fine." We're like, "Okay, no problem." And then of course, on social media, I'm not blaming social media for this, by the way, I'm saying, but it did hurt with Napalm Death tries to tell the festival what to do and promote. No, that's not what happened at all.
No,
We gave the promoter a choice.
I was
We said, if that band plays, we're not playing. If you want to keep on the bill, that's your choice, we'll just not play.
Sorry?
And
So-
even if they did, I mean, it's like the question of values. It's like
Sure.
like why they did it.
Sure, but I
And
can't.
what was their power? I mean, there are major bands. So
Yeah, but I
they
don't
can-
want to stop them. I don't want to take away their voice. As much as I might disagree with it,
Yeah.
let them do it, man. But Napalm's not going to put itself in that situation.
Yes.
It's not.
And they can get to exert that pressure.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I mean, that's important because
Yeah.
they are like like they have more powers. So,
Mate, we've done it on big. Trust me.
I mean, if you can,
we've
do
done
it,
it on.
if you get the right, you should
Yeah.
just stand by your values.
I mean, we've done it on big festivals actually, which I won't name the festivals, but there's been certain bands playing. We're just like, we're not going to do it, if that band's doing it. And the festival almost didn't understand it. They were kind of scratching their heads. We're like, isn't it obvious? Yeah. No. All right then. See,
Yes, and
Yeah.
Churbe, you have one band, vocalist have a svastika, and you can't play here. Yes, this is the same example.
And the thing is, Chirby's the promoter. That's entirely Chirby's choice.
Yes.
And that's what I said
Exactly,
to
exactly.
that's-
Exactly the same.
There shouldn't be a law for that.
No, there shouldn't be a
Because
law.
we have a law for that in our country, and we have right nowadays 15% of fascists they are in parliament
Yeah,
because you get no discussion.
sure.
You can't really expose them. It's
And this
like
is-
they're
and-
always martyrs.
Yeah. And this is what I was talking about with you. I said, whilst I might completely disagree with those viewpoints, it doesn't mean I'm not going to talk to those people. If they want to come up, I have no problem with having a come. But back in the day, the first thing they wanted to do is spit in your face. This is a thing that sometimes, well, you're just as bad as a fascist. Hang on, I didn't bring that problem to the door. I wasn't the one who beckoned somebody over at a gig across like a little barrier like that and spat in their face, as happened to me several times. I didn't do that. It wasn't me. It was fucking them. You know what I mean? So,
Well, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
It's like the-
well, back then it was
eternal
just.
question.
and-
But it wouldn't work. I mean,
Very short.
whenever I would come to anybody and tell them you're an asshole for what you think, they won't come to their senses. And
Yeah.
That's what I really like to
Yeah.
everyone to realize that if you fuck somebody off, if you
Yeah.
beat them up, they're not come to their
Yeah.
senses. You just make enemies.
Yeah, you're not an asshole for what you think. You're an asshole for what you do. You know, basically.
But the point is, you don't want to fight.
No.
It's like you want to work it out somehow.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Is there anybody else? I'm sorry, I'm fucking
I think we have
everybody at the back.
one or 2 minutes
Yeah,
left,
sure.
so just.
Very, very short.
Yeah.
Without this stupid communist, fascist, and these stupid people, will be the extreme music exist? You know, scam, anarchy in UK.
Yeah.
This is nothing to shout about without the stupid people. So,
No, but see,
you understand me?
But see, the thing is, it doesn't have to necessarily be political.
Yes.
For Napalm Death to write a song about it.
Yeah.
Again, it's you stripping it down to the human perspective, you know, of which there are, like I say, there's a palette with a million colours on it, you know, of life that you can paint, you know, so making a song basically. So there are all these things. It doesn't have to be political, you know what I mean?
Yes.
You
So
know,
extreme
there are-
music will be anarchy in the case, scam always.
Certainly in the context of, yeah, of course.
I think there will be always moving stories to write about. It doesn't have to-
A lot of the stories, even though they're not, you know, like stories in the fable sense, you know, stories.
We run out of time actually, so I'd like to thank you, Mark, for taking your time.
If anybody else wants to ask another thing that they really want to, yeah, sure.
So what you would say what has changed or what is better or what is worse compared when you first visited Czechoslovakia with Obituary and Dismember in the 90s?
Yeah.
How the scene and how actually the people or the music changed since then?
That's quite a difficult question, actually.
It takes some time and long.
Well, I mean, for Napalm Death, of course, Napalm Death comes to Czech every 2 years and does a tour over it. I mean, we do little villages. I can only really answer that, obviously, for Napalm because we do places that I'm sure a lot of bands would go, not really, village, you know, but Napalm's will go anywhere and play, you know what I mean? And I'm not just saying this, I'm noticing Czech that, you know, working with Chirby and Tommy and all the rest of it, there's always a thing to make the bands like super fucking welcome, you know what I mean? Super, super welcome, you know, to where you get excited, you know, when you want to come back to Czech, you know. I think when I first came to Czech, I mean, this sounds like a fucking cliche, but it was like this, you know. Kids were kind of a bit like, holy fuck, is this gig like really happening? You know, well, like when we rolled up to that, wherever it was, the sport.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah. The kids are like, they were kind of like open mouth. You know, when we walked in, we were just like, hello, how you doing? You know, a bit like.
Yeah, you're right.
And for us, of course, we're just like normal. You know, we're just like, all right, how's it going? You know, and they were like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? And we were just
You
like,
also had no idea.
yeah, it was strange, but again, you know, purely from a personal perspective, I went with it the last week of the Soviet Union, I was in Russia, you know, the last week when it was all starting to fall apart, you know. When Napalm was the first band to independently play in Russia, you know. I'm not talking about the corporate gigs that went like independently, you know. It was us and Sam A.L. It was the first independent concert in Russia, you know. And I mean, there's a perfect example. The kids were just like, what the fuck is going on? You know, and the whole Soviet Union was literally, you could almost feel it like kind of falling apart like that around, you know. It was really fucking weird. Interesting story, actually. Sorry, I won't keep it long. Some guy, like things were starting to relax, you know, obviously people were starting to speak and the rest of it. Some guy came into the dressing room, you know, in a Moscow gig, 1991, with a demo cassette for Shane, you know, and he got this demo cassette. There was a fucking swastika on the front of it, and Shane being Shane just went, "What the fuck's this?" and threw it back at him. And the security saw what was going on, big, like Russian, like fucking security guy, and like ran after this guy. And this guy was like, and Shane was like, no, you know, don't hurt him, you know. And this guy ran. This guy fucking jumped over like a stairwell and missed the other side, fell down the stairwell and fucking died, man. Like broke his neck inside this thing. That's honestly, this is a true story.
Symbolic.
Yeah, symbolic a little bit. Yeah, it was fucking crazy, man, honestly.
Dead to nuts.
Okay, we really
Sure.
have to go.
Yeah,
So,
no, thanks guys. Cheers. Sorry about it.